What's going on, YouTube world? Boa tarde. Bom te ver e saudades de todos vocês. Good afternoon or good evening. Good seeing you guys again, and I missed you. First of all, desculpa, muito desculpa. I apologize very much. I know that I have been absent. It's only one thing worse than starting a channel. That's starting the channel, being a little consistent, and then dropping off the radar. But I think I have a good excuse, and I wanted to kind of pop in and let you guys know why things have been a little bit distant and why they are going to resume as, how do you say, back to their regularly scheduled programs already in progress, or back to their regularly scheduled posting already in progress. Anyway, so yeah, the last time I made a video was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks ago, maybe a little bit before Christmas. I think it was way before Christmas. And I was trying to be tight-lipped because we had actually planned a trip to return to Aracatuba, Brazil. See, Brazil, my tattoo, order in progress. And we were getting ready to go, and a few weeks prior to our trip, or a week prior to our trip, they started canceling flights. You know, the COVID Omicron, or Omicron, I think Omicron is it, had begun to migrate through Latin America, and excuse me, cases had begun to spike. Well, anyway, I don't know if you guys like me, but when I have something planned and things kind of get in the way in a weird kind of time rather, I kind of am a little bit introspective. So I kind of want to pause a little bit, think about what's going on, and determine if it's something that I should be doing right now or if it's something that I should kind of wait. Well, my wife, she was kind of like, look, you know, they canceled the flight before, which they did. And thank you, sir. They canceled the flight before, which they did. And it was no issue. And I think it may have just been the timing, or it just seemed like everything was right. I was just so pumped to return back to the place that I love so much. And so we just kind of dealt with it. Now, the COVID thing was still going on, but it was beginning to die down, and this was pre-Omicron. And, you know, I guess various governments had began to reopen the borders and welcome in visitors and travelers because, you know, I mean, you know, needed resources, which I get that. Anyway, my wife, she really wanted me to go, and I really wanted to go, but it's just, it's just something I just couldn't shake. It's just one of those things. And I said, well, I also have to consider that in both of my businesses, the week before Christmas, the weekend, I guess the week before New Year's, and the week prior to back to school are busy times. They're like peak seasons. And I have many peak seasons. Just a regular week is a peak season, but they're like very, very high. Anyway, I had to consider that as well because we had intended on going for a whole month. So that would have been like a month without revenue on one particular business. Well, anyway, we had kind of planned for it. But, you know, if you're a business person, you know, you always want to try to, I don't know, just thinking as American, you know, making money, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's what my wife tells me. But anyway, so I had canceled my flight like a day before we were scheduled to leave. I canceled my flight, and she was sad about it. But I told her, I said, honey, you go ahead and go, because for me, I mean, you know, there are these 3 weeks that I really need to go ahead and take care of. Not to mention, I feel uncomfortable. And she was like, babe, I don't feel uncomfortable, and I think we should go. And in this instance, well, I'll tell you the story, it'll make sense. Well, anyway, The day after I closed my business, I came home and I had a conversation with one of my brother. He's engaged to her sister, but I'm sorry, he's engaged to her cousin. And so he was going to Sao Paulo. We were going to the state, but we were going to Aracatuba. Well, anyway, he's like, man, look, I know you want to be with your family, man. Maybe you should just take a risk, man, and just go ahead and go. And you know how somebody can say something to you and it could just kind of change the entire trajectory of where you're going and how you're thinking, and that's kind of what it did. Well, anyway, I was like, okay, well, I know my ticket has been canceled, so I'm just gonna go anyway. I'm gonna be on some guerrilla type stuff, and I'm going to the airport, and I'm gonna be like, look, I don't know about a cancel. You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna kind of play stupid. Well, anyway, I came home, I told my wife what I intended on doing, and she was like a little bit upset because she was like, you should have just listened to me and just came. Like, honey, why do you do this? You know, and I was like, and I don't do it all the time, but again, being in a capitalist society, being born and raised basically here, a lot of time, man, I'm constantly trying to find that balance. There are times where I have it down packed perfectly. Other times where I miss it horribly, but I'm winning more than I'm losing at it, so it's not a bad thing. Well, anyway, we went to the airport, drove to Orlando, which is a few hours away from where we are, and got to the airport, and so they checked my bags in and everything, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, okay, well, everything's cool, because I packed before we left the house. My wife, I saw her fight for me for about an hour and a half, and with tears in her eyes, she came back to me and she said, baby, it can't happen. They're not going to let you go. They won't reinstitute your flight. And I had to she kissed me, and she gave me my Christmas gift before she left, because again, she didn't think I was going to go, and this was the night prior to we were leaving. She gave me my Christmas gift. And so at the airport, she kissed me with tears in her eyes, and she said, I love you so much. Happy New Year and Merry Christmas, honey. I love you. We're gonna miss you. And my son, he's just kind of like just happy-go-lucky, because he's like 12 or 13 months, And so I watched my family walk away, and I had a long, arduous, emotionally arduous ride back home, 2 hours. That was one of the longest 2-hour rides I think I've ever driven. Anyway, you ever been to the point where you've been so frustrated where you didn't want to hear anything? Like, I don't want to hear people talk, I don't want to hear music or anything. Well, I needed to speak to somebody, and I said, well, let me call my brother. And so I called my brother, and I was like, yo, man, told him the scenario, and he said, man, look, man, I know you want to be with your family. I know you love your family. I mean, we see how you guys interact, and it's beautiful. He said, this thing crazy. He said, allow me to say this. He said, in a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, he said, you have no idea the clearance for them to go and the drawback for you to go may have been, he said, obviously it was simultaneous. She was sensing something that you weren't sensing. And it's not that you should have prevented her from going, but of course, as my wife, she wanted to urge me to go, which I had changed my mind and decided that I should have made the trip. But make a long story short, he said in a few weeks it's gonna come to light why it was probably not a good thing for you to go. And I was kind of taken aback, because usually when people say stuff like that, it's like, okay, is something bad gonna happen to somebody else? So I can say I told you so. I mean, and of course, nobody wants that, especially with their wife and their toddler, their son, people that I love like so much. So I was like, okay, well, that's fine. And it gave me a little peace. And so I said, well, you know what? I will just go ahead and I'll tackle these next 3 weeks. And then I'll just go on the 8th, because that would have been like the end of the 3rd peak week. Yeah. Anyway, I went ahead and, like my son had a birthday party. It wasn't his first birthday party, but it was his second to first birthday party, because we had the first one here, But then we also wanted to have one with our family members in Brazil, and I'm going to put all of that stuff up. I'm going to put a lot of shorts up, and I'm going to put a lot of videos on. Well, anyway, so I had to see that, and I mean, in a weird kind of way, obviously I missed them, but in a weird kind of way, I had like a sense of peace. I can't explain it. Christmas, same thing. They're celebrating with the family. I had a sense of peace, and I missed them dearly. You know, FaceTime, I FaceTime them every day. They FaceTime me, you know, thank God for technology. And this happened all the way up to the 3rd week. So she said, you still planning on coming? And that overwhelming sense of don't go, you shouldn't go, came on me again. And I'm like, my God, I just paid like almost over $900, $1,000 for another ticket. And it came down to it. I said, well, I'll give it to the next day. And if I feel, you know, maybe this just go away. It didn't go away. It only got stronger. So I said, honey, don't be mad. She said, baby, I'm not going to be mad. I'm not mad. My wife, she's just cool like that. And I canceled that flight. So that's money that I just lost. The week after that, family members started catching COVID. And my wife got concerned because my mother-in-law, my father-in-law tested positive for it, my sister-in-laws both tested positive for it, nephews, a couple other cousins tested positive for it, and her and my son were negative. And so she was really concerned. I said, well, look, let's just go ahead and get you guys a hotel, which we did. And I said, you guys can just stay in a hotel for a couple of days until this thing blows over. And she said, well, now I want to come home because I'm afraid. I said, okay, baby, we'll do what we need to do. Got her a ticket, paid for it for her and my son. Had to pay a little bit extra because it was spur of the moment. And the day before she was scheduled to take a flight, she tested positive. So I was like, wow. And thank God, most of everyone who tested positive were asymptomatic. A few people had chills and stuff like that, but for the most part, people were asymptomatic. And I said, well, okay, honey, you know, she was really hurt by it, frustrated by it. She took a test the next day, same thing, positive. So at this point, I'm concerned about her. I'm concerned about my son. And so we had to go through a whole nother week and a half, almost 2 weeks, quarantine or whatever while they were there. And this time, you know, we had made plans for them to come back, tickets and everything in place again. And the day she tested positive was the day she got on that plane. Her and my son came home. So they literally just got back Saturday just passed. So they've only been home for a few days. And I looked at it and I was like, man, over 30-something days, a month or so that I had been without my family, I missed some peak times that obviously we'll never be able to get back. Thank God we, you know, for my technology, I was able to participate, if not, but only on screen, but I was able to participate. And I said, you know, what would have happened had I gone? Would I have tested positive? If so, would I have been asymptomatic? I don't know. But I see now that me staying for me was the right choice, and I'm glad I did. And because that would have delayed my time in coming back, opening up my businesses, and of course, you know, income and revenue would have been, same thing, would have been lost. And so, I don't know. I think I'll say this right here. When you have situations like this that happen and you're not necessarily sure on what to do, always know this: whatever decision you make, you had better be confident that it's a decision that you can live with. Because I could very well be regretting the fact that I couldn't be there with them, and it just totally have wrecked those 30 some odd days that I was here. But because I believe that what was going on in this feeling that I was, and it was more than a feeling, but this thing that was just, wouldn't get off of me. I tend to gravitate and embrace that because I felt like and I ain't gonna even say felt because feelings change. I believe that I was confident in the choice that I made, and I have no regrets. So, I don't know, whatever decision you make, just make sure it's one that you can live with, despite how it goes. Because it could have been, I could have went, everything would have been good. But I'm glad I didn't take that chance, because who knows. Anyway, Chiamo guys, I'm glad that, you know, I had this opportunity to just kind of share with you guys. And again, it's good to be posting. And I'm gonna, you know, every day I'm gonna try to put up some shorts and some videos of my family while they were there during the Christmas holidays. But I definitely wanted to make this just to say hello again, and hope everybody is doing well. And I missed you guys. And Update&Apology. This is your man Larry, the American Brazilian. É verdade.